The Houston Rockets are about to become extremely dangerous when it comes to the NBA, and that is because they are basically a daycare of an NBA team, meaning that they have one of the best young cores in the entire NBA, and it is probably the least talked about one, but yet I think that they're going to be one of the most unstoppable teams in just a few years, assuming they will develop correctly and make the correct roster moves. And I'm going to be getting to all that in this video, starting with how good this young core actually is. A young core in the NBA is probably one of the most overused terms for every single team that is just not good, okay? Because no matter what, if you're not a very good team, you're probably fairly young and you have a lot of at least somewhat promising young talent. But in my opinion, a young core is only a young core if they're going to be together for many years and be a huge part of a team's future. And that is exactly what the Houston Rockets have. And in my opinion, they have a young core of about 7 players. And those 7 players being Jalen Green, Jabari Smith, Alperen Sengun, Amen Thompson, KPJ, or at least Kevin Porter Jr., Cam Whitmore, and Tari Eason. I think for the most part, all 7 of these players have a very big impact on whether this team is going to be good or bad, and will be with the team for a very long time to come. And let's just break down the young core player by player, starting off with probably the leader of it in Jalen Green. Now, Jalen Green is an extremely exciting shooting guard, very athletic. He's one of the best offensive players in the league already, and in just his second year in the NBA, he averaged 22 points per game, 4 assists per game, and 4 rebounds per game, and is probably the best player from his draft class. Yes, you can argue Cade Cunningham. Yes, you can argue Evan Mobley, but in my opinion, it is Jalen Green, and I think he is going to just keep getting better and better as time goes on and as he gets more comfortable in the NBA, and I think his efficiencies are going to go up as well, which is probably one of his biggest problems. But overall, Jalen Green has superstar written all over him. In a few years, he will probably be one of the faces of the NBA. And then moving to the next guy of the young core, you have Jabari Smith Jr., who was last year's 2nd overall pick in the draft, and although he didn't have a great rookie year by any means, he didn't really have a bad one, and he did show a lot of promise and flashes, so a lot of people were kind of already writing him off as not being a star in the future. But in my opinion, he still has all the tools to develop. He is still an extremely young player. I think he is extremely kind of getting bashed for no reason. Like I said, he's only in his 2nd year. I didn't expect him to come into the NBA and be Kevin Durant, okay? But he has the size, he has all the tools, he has tons of two-way potential, and he just showed tons of flashes last year, and I think there's a lot to be optimistic about if you're a Jabari Smith fan or a Houston Rockets fan. And I think overall he is going to be a ginormous piece, and I would not write him off as not being a potential star yet. I think he could very realistically be an all-star level player at worst if things don't go completely to plan, and even a superstar if everything does go to plan. And then the third guy I want to go into is going to be Alperen Sengun. Now, Sengun is going to be the first player in this young core that was not a top lottery pick. Now, yes, he was still a first rounder. He was still very solid, don't get me wrong, but he was the first guy on this list that's not really wasn't expected to be as good as he is, but yet has really carved out a great role with himself in Houston, and he is looking kind of like a baby Nikola Jokic. Now, he's not Nikola Jokic. I'm not saying that, but he kind of plays fairly similar. He's a smart passer. He's more smart than athletic and strong and things like that. He's a solid scorer. Now, his defense leaves a little bit to be desired, but he's still very young, can develop all that, and I definitely think he will probably be a top 13, top 15 center by the end of this year coming up, like a hands down one, like no argument, top 15 center in the NBA after this year. And he's just been developing at a very nice pace since he's gotten in the league, and I think all around he's one of the more underrated centers, and will probably get moved to like power forward eventually if they get a bigger guy, but I think he would perform just as well there because he is kind of an undersized center. But until then, I still think he's going to be one of the better centers in the league one day. And then even the guys they drafted this year in Amen Thompson, who was a high lottery pick for them. I think he was the 4th overall pick, I'm pretty sure, and he is also extremely solid. Now, he is very raw, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think he's going to come into the NBA immediately, and I don't think he's going to be a star immediately, because he does have a lot of work on his jump shot. His defense is good, but it's not great. His passing is elite, and his athleticism is elite, but like I said, when it comes to all-around scoring and shooting the ball, he is not there at all yet, and shooting the ball is an extremely valuable thing to have from a forward, guard, any position that's going to be handling the ball a lot, and he is going to be that. So I think for sure until he's going to be at his peak, he has to develop that jump shot a lot, but I think even from day one, he's going to be giving you flashy plays. He's not going to be spacing the floor, but he's going to be upping the pace of your team, and the faster the pace in this NBA, really the better it is, especially for young teams like the Houston Rockets. And I think Amen Thompson in a few years could potentially be an all-star level player, but off the rip, he's probably going to be more of a defense guy slashing to the basket type of thing, while also being a very solid playmaker for his teammates. And as he develops that jump shot, I think he's going to be more and more prominent in the offense itself. himself. Now for Kevin Porter Jr., Kevin Porter Jr. is an extremely good offensive guard, and he will probably be the team's sixth man this year. And with how good he is on offense, he legit could get sixth man of the year contention depending on how good the Rockets are record-wise this year. And I think they should at least have a respectable record with some of the additions they made that I'm going to get into a little bit later in this video. And I think if they are even a play-in level team, KPJ could potentially be in sixth man of the year conversations if that is his role going into next year. And I just think with him only being, what, I think like 24, he even has a long ways to develop as well, and he's going to be getting even better as a scorer as time goes on. Now, another piece of the young core is going to be Cam Whitmore. Now, Cam Whitmore, I wasn't as high on him as most, but that was mainly because a lot of people had him going in like the top 10, and he somehow fell all the way to 20 to the Houston Rockets, where they were able to snag him. Now, Cam Whitmore is kind of in the same boat as Amen. Now, they are very different players in how they play, but they're both very raw in my opinion. But I do think Cam Whitmore, his jump shot is already there, and he's a power forward, so the need of a jump shot is a little bit less of a necessity than a guard, but I still think he needs to develop that a little bit farther. But he is already a very solid jump shooter. He has extreme athleticism. He's very strong, and I think his two-way potential is through the roof, and he legitimately also has all-star level potential due to how high his ceiling actually is. And I think he's actually probably going to be more of an impactful player than even Amen Thompson is in his rookie year, because I think he has more tools to be a great defender, great rebounder, great role player for them than Amen Thompson does year one. Now, I think they both have extremely high ceilings, but I think Cam Whitmore could potentially be the steal of this class just because they were able to get him at 20 when he was supposed to go in the top 10. And like I said, I'm not even someone that was super high on Cam Whitmore, but for him to fall all the way to 20, in my opinion, is absolutely absurd, and they got an absolute steal with him falling that far. And then the last player in this young core that I really want to get into is going to be Tari Eason. Now, Tari Eason, in my opinion, is one of the most unsung heroes of this roster. He was last year's 17th overall pick, and he has just played extremely well. Any team would love to have him. He has great size, great athleticism. He can shoot the ball from everywhere. He can score from everywhere. He's a great slasher, great rebounder, and like I said, great defender. And he's just all around a great role player to have on your roster. And I think Tari Eason is going to be one of the better two-way players in the NBA for an extremely long time. And I think the Houston Rockets just got an absolute steal. And with how good they've been drafting and how good of a drafting team they are, I think that the Houston Rockets have been hitting home run after home run after home run. And that is why this young core is so impressive and why I think they will be together for so long. So that's the young core, and that's the main motor, the oil that's going to make the engine run, okay? But then the kind of other things that are going to help this team really be good and really win a lot of games this year, or at least a lot more than they did last year in the previous two seasons, I'm going to be getting into that right now. And what I think that is going to be the fact that they have legitimate depth on this roster now. Last year, the first 5 players off of their bench was Daishawn Nix, Jae'Sean Tate, Tari Eason, Garuba, and Garrison Matthews. That is not a good first 5 off your bench, but that is much worse than what they're going to have going into this season, as they are projected to have a first 5 off the bench as Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, Kevin Porter Jr., Cam Whitmore, and Jae'Sean Tate, and then lastly, Jock Landale. Now, all of those players are upgrades over the players they had last year at that position, and I think it's going to help their bench depth immensely, and that is the most important thing on good teams. Notice how every contending level team has an all-around extremely good built roster. It's never just 1 or 2 players dominating. It's always an entire team with 2 stars at the top, but the entire team is filled out nicely as well, and that is exactly what it looks like the Houston Rockets are aiming towards, and they're gonna get there at this pace, in my opinion. And then also, to make things even better, in their starting lineup, they have legit veterans to help. They added Fred VanVleet, who's one of the most underrated guards for years at this point now. He's a great playmaker, but he's also an excellent scorer, and he's just going to help players like Jalen Green just have way less pressure on the ball. He's not going to be the only one teams focus on. You have to respect Fred VanVleet or he will kill you. He's that good of a player. And I think for sure Fred VanVleet will go a long way in helping this team. And then also at small forward, you have Dillon Brooks. Now, yes, you pay Dillon Brooks a lot of money, but he is an extremely solid player, an 18-point per game scorer. He's going to add a much needed edge to this young team. Like, Dillon Brooks is going to have all of them thinking they're NBA young boy, okay? Like, he is a great player to have around a young team, in my opinion. Same with Fred VanVleet, who's won championships before. I think those are two excellent additions, and the Houston Rockets have had one of the best off seasons in the entire NBA, hands down. I think overall this is going to help them a ton because, like I said, it's going to add edge. It adds two extremely good two-way players, in my opinion. And Fred VanVleet is not a great defender, but he's just a great passer, and he's a multi-dimensional player. And I think it's just going to help guys like Jalen Green and Jabari Smith a ton in their development, because now teams can't only be like, okay, we're going to just focus on only stopping Jalen Green, Jabari Smith. Now you have legitimately four guys who you have to focus on, and now Jabari Smith is probably that fourth guy that no one's going to really care about, and he should be getting wide open shots, and he should be having a much easier time scoring, and hopefully he can develop to the point to where you have to respect him as well. And now you have four legitimate guys you have to worry about, and that is extremely hard to deal with. And then with a very solid bench as well of young people and young players with high energy should also help a ton, and they could be one of the more fun teams to watch in the entire NBA going into next season. And I just think overall this team is going to be much improved, because a lot of people point to the fact that they only increased in 2 wins from last year to 2 years ago, but a lot of people didn't acknowledge the fact that they lost Christian Wood, they lost a ton of veterans that offseason, so obviously they weren't going to be as good. And actually, impressively, even despite losing their best player the first year Jalen Green was there, they ended up improving by 2 wins despite being even younger and having almost no role players. And now this year they're adding even better role players. Their young guys are developing a lot. Jalen Green is probably projected to make a huge step next year. And I just think overall the Houston Rockets are going to be a very fun team to watch. And in my opinion, are going to be one of my favorite teams that I'm going to watch any chance I get. But unfortunately, guys, that's going to be for this video. So comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you think the Houston Rockets could potentially be very good next year? How good do you think they can be? On your thoughts in the comment section below. If you'd like to point, hit the like button and subscribe button. It would mean the absolute word to me. And hope you have a blessed day, because I had a blessed day. So you need a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah, blah.